welcome to another episode of the iFocus podcast coming to you from Houston, Texas. Today I have the honor and the privilege of introducing to you to a colleague and friend of mine, Miss Angelique Bartholomew. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great, Heidi. How are you?
I'm wonderful, wonderful. She is the Principal Business Development Ambassador and I believe CEO of Intuitive Global Consulting. And also the African American Chair of HITDC, and has also contributed to International Focus magazine as a writer before. So we have worked together in the past, but we haven't spoken in a while. I know that you've recently been on a trip, I believe a trade mission, and I wanted to find out what you're up to.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And yes, we have collaborated quite a bit over the last 2 years, I believe, with the efforts with HITDC as well as some of the efforts around trade missions and developments. But I've really just been focused on the consulting opportunity to expand Intuitive Global into multiple enterprises globally as well as here locally. I'm still very US focused in terms of small business SMEs really getting opportunities and resources abroad.
Well, tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to Intuitive Global into running your own consulting business. I know your clients are very lucky to have you in their corner.
Thank you so much. Well, Intuitive Global really came out of or evolved out of the pandemic. All of us were at home working, and I've been in the consulting space for a little over 7, 8 years now, and really just decided that the opportunities that needed to expand from an SME perspective were not happening as frequently or not as engaging as they're supposed to be from the US side. So I started doing some research globally. I've always had the interest, of course, with being the chair with HITDC, to look into opportunities abroad and how some of the small businesses could really tap into those opportunities. I served on the and an appointment position with the U.S. Trade and Finance Council over that 2 year period out of COVID, and learned a lot about global trade as well as recommendations to the Department of Commerce for how to involve small, micro, minority businesses in the finance and global space. And just really interacting in that Department of Commerce capacity helped me to really gain a lot of knowledge about what was and was not accessible for small businesses as it relates to trade opportunities and development and growth. So contributing to the recommendations for the Department of Commerce allowed me to have an understanding about some of the opportunities that exist, some of the strongholds or blockages that small businesses or micro businesses may not have had opportunities to participate in, and figure out what ways would be possible to expand those opportunities for businesses globally. And that's how Intuitive was really born. Having the experience here with minority small businesses, looking into non-traditional industries that we have not tapped into, such as transportation, of course, infrastructure, and those areas. I've participated from a compliance and policy development standpoint and really wanted to take our engagement experience to the next level with surveying and stakeholder engagement. And of course, having a legal background, my passion has been R&D, which is the research and development for agencies, small cities, towns, and getting into the public sector to allow those minority contractors to really match the opportunities for bid that come out of the public sector. So
I guess
merging those
that
two.
would be a question is, for me just on is for small businesses, what is the reality of the opportunities available? Because I know
The
a lot of
real
people they dream about it, we think about it, but we don't know where to start as far as taking our business globally, taking ourselves into an international space.
Yes. Well, of course, here locally, you want to establish yourself very well first before taking your business global. It's not something that I recommend just getting up and doing, although there have been, a number of successful businesses that grew out of COVID. just online. However, it does still require you to be both technically savvy as well as I would say culturally savvy in terms of understanding what the nuances are around government interactions and opportunities. And going through the process of vetting is something that you certainly want to have your arms around before launching a product or service into another foreign country, without really having an understanding culturally. And there are agencies such as U.S. Commercial Services and various others that really kind of walk through those steps and processes. But you want to really do your own homework and have a really good, like I said, research and development team to help you vet those opportunities, as well as what your competition and things are, and how well that um, country or continent is receptive to what it is that you have to offer.
So you're saying make sure you do your homework beyond the Google search as far as what we want to do. As when you keep saying about cultural understanding, one of the best ways to gain cultural understanding is to travel.
Hmm.
And and
Absolutely.
and I know that you've been focusing when you through the pandemic you were unable to do so. But this year you were able to travel. Can you tell us a little bit about your latest mission that you went on?
Well, you and I, of course, did Panama together, which was
Right. And that was
really,
last year, about a year ago.
yes,
And then
only about a year.
And then I'm we're hoping to revisit Panama, I know, sometime coming up soon. But you also were in Africa for a conference.
Yes, yes.
What conference was that?
I traveled with Africa is Open,
Mhm.
and that is a local organization that was really founded and pulled together by Michelle Mbeo, who has put together a opportunity for cultural as well as trade and business development tours to East Africa. The focus there is primarily East Africa, Nairobi area, and we traveled there to visit the AmCham conference, as well as to have opportunities for businesses and small businesses to connect with governments and government agencies and private companies and investors during that time as well. And it was a very informative trip that allowed you to understand both culture as well as business opportunity and trade. And it's still being developed. Michelle is participating in an upcoming Afri Expo event in Houston next week, as am
Oh,
I.
okay.
And that
Wonderful.
is
What tell us a little bit about that. Where is that gonna be held?
That's at the Ion.
Oh, the
And
Ion. Okay.
yes, in Houston. And she will be participating, both Africa is Open as well as her enterprise, which is Lakeview Fisheries, in that. And she's a client that I've worked with over the last year to really evolve her brand, evolve her research and connectivity to local agencies and opportunities here in the US, to really marry those things that she's already been doing for many years with her family and founding the organization, Lakeview Fisheries, with her family. So we have teamed up, so to speak, to bring those expansion opportunities from a technology, from a collaboration on research, all the way to export, together. So we're working on building that. But the Africa is Open opportunity gives people a chance through Michelle's organization to actually travel to the region and experience it. So there are two tours that take place on an annual basis, and one is business and trade related, and the other is culture, which is coming up here pretty soon.
Okay, that's exciting. So that's also what you do with the Houston International Trade Development Council. You host trade missions and help businesses basically from wherever they are.
Absolutely. But the efforts around the building the trade missions are really trying to connect business owners with opportunities in those areas that we're visiting. During our trip, we had an opportunity to connect with the Senate in Panama. We hosted officials going to those areas, and there have been some sister city developments or relationships created. But small businesses really have to learn how to tap into those opportunities and respond back and follow up to how those things evolve when we leave those areas. So You don't want to just get into, a travel. Of course, people are traveling for leisure, but at the same time, the goal from an intuitive global perspective, from an HITDC perspective, from an AIO when it's related to business, which is Africa is open, you want to have US businesses really transacting opportunities that are evolving in these continents and in these areas that you're visiting. So I go with both my business and my pleasure hat on, but it is really to lead intuitive opportunities for small businesses to grow and evolve. And that's what happens when I'm involved.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because that's what you mean by getting a cultural knowledge of what you're trying to do. If you decide to go global, you need to pick a region, you need to learn about it, you need to figure out what it is those people need that you can offer. And
Absolutely. And
and that takes a little bit of time and research and personal, like your feet on the ground experience.
it really does. I didn't really understand that until I experienced that with Val going to Panama and with you. We had done several, we had communicated with businesses. As you know, we have Panamanian relationships here in Houston. They traveled with us, and Soki and the team there, they have since evolved and developed their business there and are moving forward with opportunities in the Panamanian governments and the Panamanian economy. The same with Michelle. The effort to travel there, as she said to me, Angelique, you just can't jump into business in Africa. You really need to experience and understand how it operates. You have to see it, you have to feel it. And if I could actually copy the Department of Commerce's executive director, when he arrived at the conference we attended, as soon as my feet hit the ground, tears came to my eyes because you can almost feel the energy of what you've heard about and learned about in school for so many years. Africa is really one of those places, and it's royalty. It literally is that for me.
I can see it. I can see it all
Yeah,
over your face.
yeah.
That's a beautiful place to end on this note. I hope that you'll come back and give us updates and continue to educate our audience. And it was such a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And you're doing amazing work with If Magazine. And I love the work that we're doing together through HITDC. I'm looking forward to the upcoming or the second Pivot to Africa event that we're getting ready for, as well as G7. So, those are events that I think will really highlight the work that's been done on the ground level for small businesses to engage in. And if we're promoting that and doing that together, I think that your opportunity to put people in the forefront or in the know with this podcast and in the If magazine will really allow them to see themselves in a global space like you've done with Intuitive. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We've really enjoyed having you as part, of everything. And I definitely, I wanted to before we left today, because I know that we want everyone to join us at the 10th annual Global 7 Awards. It's going to be at the Junior League on October 19th. And we're
Yes.
also having through HITDC, we're always fundraising for scholarships, but we're having a African art sale at the ITC on September 23rd. So please be on the lookout for those events, and we'll definitely be back with more information on how we can get more and more businesses involved globally.
Thank you so much.
So before we go, Angelique, let's definitely for the Global 7 Awards, you'll get your tickets at the HoustonTrade.org, and you can also find us on Eventbrite. But how do we find Intuitive Global Consulting? How do we find you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Of course, you can find us on the web. We're intuitiveglobalconsulting.com. And of course, you can reach out via Twitter. Angel B, JD is my Twitter handle. And of course, on LinkedIn, Angelique Bartholomew or Intuitive Global is listed on LinkedIn. So I'd love to connect with your SME, your small minority enterprise or small business and find out what you're looking to do globally and see if we can assist.
Wonderful,
Join
wonderful,
us, join
wonderful.
us for the Afri Expo next week.
Definitely, definitely. It's time to get out there and get busy because the season is upon us. So definitely the Global 7 is October 19th. I wanted to mention that. September 23rd is our scholarship fundraiser at ITC. And you can find us at houstontrade.org, International Focus Magazine at ifmagazine.net. And you can find me at international_focus at Instagram and Instagram HPP photo if you want me personally. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Please tune in every week. Please subscribe and get your friends to subscribe. We'll be reintroducing you to some of the best in international business.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.